I don't. We check the. There's a control.
On that note, I want to welcome everybody to the world according to that man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. Always a clean intro on this show. Want to welcome everybody that's in the YouTube chat, going to be in the YouTube chat, and everybody that's been downloading the podcast at exceptional pace. I want to remind you, we are now on Getter, so go Getter and Gotter and follow at Ben Stein. Please. And we are joined tonight by a man that is not simple, yet he runs the simpelifenow.com founder, Gary Collins.
Thanks for having me.
How are you, sir?
Doing good. Can't complain.
That's great. You seem very excited.
Yeah, because I do nothing but complain.
So there you go. We have
So we have an even balance here.
And also we are joined, of course, by iconoclast, mathematician, statistician, mathematician, doctor, lawyer.
Could you remind me what a mathematician is?
You're so good at mathematician and statistician. They made up a different category for you, mathematician. But of course, most importantly, America's humble servant and Dr. Benjamin Jeremy Stein. How are you tonight, sir?
I've just gotten through some of the most difficult surgery of my life. This time, separating conjoined zebras. Remember here? But I was flown to a game park in Kenya, and I did it. And then I was flown back on Hunter Biden's plane, and here I
am. Well, we know he gets cheap gas.
We also know I had to go part of the way on the Texas Democrats plane, but it was fine. It was fun.
What a fun plane.
Watched a lot of female mud wrestling.
I wanted to tell everybody I got an email this morning. I'm not going to say who it was from, but it was a brilliant piece that somebody had written, and it started July 2021, a month that will live in infamy. If there is such a thing as, quote, history in the Biden/Orwell/Soros omni dictatorship, July 2021 will mark the month that the Constitution, the, quote, greatest work ever thrown off by man, by the hand and mind of man, quote, as Gladstone put it, was thrown into the ministry of truth, the ministry of truth memory hole. And that's why when I love when Ben Boychuk is on and he reads this stuff, it's not that easy. But of course, I read this morning, and it was written by your humble servant, Benjamin Jeremy Stein, and I was actually blown away by what you wrote.
God bless you, sir. God bless you, sir.
And I don't just say that. It was, the rest of the piece is great. It'll be up at spectator.org very soon if it's not there yet. And Ben Stein, why don't you tell people how bad the month of July has been?
Well, we have a constitution. It is, as I noted, and of course was noted millions upon millions of times, the greatest document ever struck off by the hand and mind of man at one time. It is the governing document for the greatest republic in the history of mankind, the United States of America. And one of its most crucial points is that we have guarantees of freedom of speech. Now, these guarantees of freedom of speech guarantee that the Congress shall make no law having to do with abridgment of freedom of speech. That's fine. That's great. But now we have a terrible situation where the big tech communications giants, I won't say their names, but we all know who they are, have conspired to keep conservatives blamed, shadow banned, I believe is the phrase my son uses, and make sure that conservatives don't get their views across on the internet. Okay, so they would say, the conglomerates, these giant corporations would say, well, we're not covered by the Constitution, we're private companies. But now it has been revealed by Janet, turn around in her shoes, jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton, pick a bale of hay. She has revealed that the government, the White House, is working hand in glove with these communications titans to control who has access to the internet, who gets followed, who gets surveilled, and who gets blocked. That means essentially that big tech and the government are one conjoined body now. And this is something so evil that the people who made the Constitution did not even consider that this was a possibility. But now they are clearly one entity, government and private. So clearly the First Amendment applies to them. Even the current utterly spineless Supreme Court should be able to see that.
Amen, Ben Stein and Gary Collins. When I read that this morning, I wanted to write because a few weeks ago Ben wasn't as
I was
vocal.
what I said to you, Judah, my dear friend, was I want to see the evidence. I said your suspicions are quite brilliant, but I want to see the evidence.
So now, Gary, I say to Ben, welcome to the revolution.
Well, it was interesting that they admitted to it. That was pretty. It's documented now. It's evidence, which
She'll
is
probably retract it now.
probably. But Ben, I have a question for you on that side. What are the avenues that can be taken against the government and big tech on this issue? How is the lawsuit brought, and who brings it?
Against Uber Eats? No. We can have, just us, humble little Ben Stein and Judah and you, sir, could sue because apparently there is some evidence, I don't say it's conclusive, that we are being shadow banned because of our pro-conservative agenda and pro-conservative voices. And if we can sue Google or whoever it is who's shadow banning us and allege that they are working with government and therefore they are in violation of the First Amendment, we should be able to get that into any federal district court. Not necessarily will, because the courts these days are totally, if I may use this phrase, pussy whipped by the Democrats. And so it's, we don't know that we can do it, but if we keep trying, maybe we'll get in there, and we certainly should be able to. And if the powerful Republicans in the Senate made a move in that direction, they should certainly get it.
And a lot of people are saying that Trump's lawsuit has a lot of merit. A lot of extremely smart lawyers are saying that there is a lot of merit in his lawsuit. So if there's anybody that could start the ball and chain going, it is President Donald J. Trump. I pray that as you, Ben, bring up constantly, it's the judges getting here, hearing it in front of the judges. But Gary Collins, it is. I like that you said they finally. Why would they admit it? And the better thing is, why not? Who's going to question them on it? You make it like some press pool person, and there is going to be like, what are you talking about? You made a mistake. You didn't mean that, Jen Psaki.
Yeah.
Well put.
Well, it's like them saying, like Bernie Sanders and AOC going, we don't believe in socialism. No, it's on record. You said you were a socialist. You believe in socialism. It's kind of amazing. I agree with Ben. They'll retract it. I got another question for you, Ben. Oh, Joe Biden. When did he become? Because you have been around a long time. I was a puppy. I was barely born when that guy entered his useless political career as a dirtbag and criminal. How did he become working class Joe?
That's a
no one in that
question.
family has ever had a goddamn job, ever.
Well, his father had a job. His father was a car salesman. His father had a job, but he and that's a perfectly decent job. That's a perfectly legitimate job.
He said Joe Biden,
but not
Joe Biden's father. Yeah, not Joe. But I think he changed as the Democrat Party tried to make itself more and more like a classic European socialist party. And a classic, and then moved more and more, even left of them, to make themselves a classic racial economic party, where racial issues have merged with the economic issues to try to overthrow the government as both racist and a capitalist slash exploitive. So we've got, I'm not sure when that was exactly, but I think that the turning point was a horrible guy. I shouldn't say this about any fellow human being, but some say a horrible guy named George McGovern, who really took the Democratic Party on a hard left turn, and he got absolutely got the crap kicked out of him by President Nixon in the '72 election. But then the media attacked Nixon fiercely and got him kicked out of office. So, but I think it was at about that time that the average Joe, so to speak, in the Democrat Party started to turn left. And Biden, who, as I said, had all through the '70s and early '80s been a reliable segregationist, started to change. And when he saw the direction the Democrat Party was going, he changed the law.
Okay, so you just said something, and I'm being serious when I say this. So people used to probably say he's average, he's just an average Joe,
Right.
referring to his mental acuity.
I think that's giving him too much credit.
No, but then it went on to become he's just your average Joe.
Right.
And it's sort of Gary, the moniker probably stuck. And but I want to get to something else. So Biden, I don't know if this was done purposely. You never know with him if it's done purposely or just out of sheer, it's past 6 o'clock at night and certain sicknesses are starting to creak in. But he blamed Facebook for killing people, Gary. You saw this, right? With COVID and with the messaging, he basically, with people with their freedom of speech about COVID, and now supposedly Facebook then is angry at the Biden administration. They're fighting back supposedly the day after they admitted that they're colluding. Supposedly now Facebook is really angry with the Biden administration.
Now, wait a second. Let me back up a second. Average Judah. When did Average Joe say Friday? He said that Facebook had killed people.
He's essentially killing people because of of again what they're considering misinformation.
Well, they better crack down some more. They were letting way too many people online.
I know, right, and it's now that you say that, I'm not exactly. One of the things about being online, and we've been speaking about this, is I was reading a very interesting piece today that would extremely help Cuba is putting them online. We have the ability to get them a lot of service. I mean, forget about weapons. The most powerful thing we know is people getting their voices out, and the fact that we won't even offer that is an absolute disgrace.
Disgrace. That is and you made that point very recently, Jude, and it was a brilliant point. And what on earth do hippie billionaires like Mr. Bezos and the other people who are the head of these tech companies? What on earth do these hippie billionaires have to say in defense of themselves?
You know what they have to say in defense of themselves, Ben? They're all stroking their own what of Branson getting into space, and Bezos is going to be the next one into space.
He's going into space.
Well, Richard Branson went last week.
I know, but Richard Branson is not quite as much of a goofball as Bezos.
Well, I mean, he yes, I believe that is Bezos' plan. The Amazon spaceship delivery system.
What is? I have a question, respectfully. What is gained by these guys going into space?
It's who's got a bigger what contest. I mean, Gary. I mean, I can't think of anything more of it other than
that would be LeBron James, right?
Yeah. Well, see, you're missing the point about Cuba though, and the internet. They don't really need the internet because they're so busy running world-class hospitals. And they don't have any time for that. They're saving lives with their high-tech hospitals. So doing, minimally invasive surgeries with robots. So, it's funny too, because now that Cuba has melted down yet again, go figure, socialism, communism has never worked, but for some reason, Cuba seems to work, even though it doesn't.
It's amazing. It is astonishing. It has never worked at all.
Ever.
And yet it is still so appealing to stupid young people, and young people who are young. And that means they have juicy, firm bodies. Should be having sex instead of worrying about communism.
I don't think they're having sex anymore either, Ben, according to the statistics. When you got a bunch of angry white chicks
Right,
with
by the
full
way.
hair, 100 pounds overweight, calling you a racist. It's kind of hard to get a boner at that point.
And welcome to the Saturday night special of the world, according to Ben Stein. I want to thank everybody that's in the chat room. We are watching. I am watching it. I am reading it. It's greatly appreciated. I want to remind everybody to continue to download that podcast, even if you listen to us here. Anywhere podcasts are downloadable. Of course, also Gary has an amazing podcast, simplelifenow.com. And I suggest you start listening to Gary because we're all gonna be needing to live off the grid. And I would just want to remind everybody, Ben's email is benstein.substack.com, but also start following us on Getter. Get that app and start following us. We will be very active on it. And
What's
on that
Getter?
note,
What is that? What is that, Judah? What is
Oh,
Getter?
what's Getter?
Getter is the new app. It's it's not conservative. It's just like a Twitter type of app started by, I believe, Trump's former communications director, and they've had a huge surge. At least 2 or 3 million have joined in a few weeks.
Great, sounds great.
And they, as of now, they haven't been banned or shadow banned from the Apple Store or Google Play or any of the other things. But I wanted to get into something very quickly, but we're about to have another lockdown here in this fine county we live in, known as LA
but
County.
Judah, you who are my main source of information, tell me now that maybe it's not going to happen.
No, what I said was that the sheriff's department which was a great line, said they're not going to enforce it because science doesn't support this shutdown. And I thought, oh my God, that is just good for this, good for Villanueva, the Los Angeles County sheriff, for actually having enough guts. And I said to you, I hope that the LAPD would follow suit and have enough guts to not, to not brown shirt us. I mean, Ben Stein, this is absolutely another mask mandate. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But it's ridiculous unless they have clear data that this is a vital health preserving move. And it's interesting that our beloved county of Los Angeles has not come out with such news. Now, bear in mind, I am not speaking to you from Los Angeles County. I'm speaking to you from a secret location, not far from Los Angeles County. But I'd like to see, I mean, my gosh, it's Los Angeles County. It's very, very large county, rolling in money. Why can't they put out a booklet or something which shows the data that where a third that a new face mask mandate is needed? Why can't they come out with that? This is a big, prosperous, super tech advanced county. Why can't they come out with that incredibly important data?
So I was talking to Gary about this morning, Gary, and we were talking about after 9/11, we had a commission, and I brought this up on the show before, Gary. It's been a year and a half, and there's been zero commissions. Nancy Pelosi won't let any forensic science to really be done on this, Gary. And so that answers Ben's question in a sense. We have no data. There's no freaking data. We're a year and a half in, and we still know nothing, Gary.
But why? But wait a minute. But my dear friend Judah, we are asking a really bigger question than that. Even if they had data on first mask mandate, where's the data showing that a second mask mandate would be helpful?
Well, Gary, I mean, the point being is you don't need data.
Well, you don't need data when you make up your own science. And it's funny, a year and a half later, now they're like, oh yeah, it probably came from the Wuhan lab. Yeah. No shit. It's like everyone knew that from the word go.
And everyone but the Democrats.
Everyone but Democrats, which they knew because they funded some of it.
Well, there's a very wonderful movie, I think it's Treasure of the Sierra Madre. I might be wrong, but in which a group of Mexican banditos are chasing after some American miners having to do with a gold mine or silver mine, and the Americans say to the Mexicans who are banditos who are claiming to be law enforcement officers, well, if you're law enforcement officers, where are your badges? And the Mexican banditos say, badges? We don't need no stinking badges. And I think what we have here in glorious LA County is a superstructure of the government that says data. We don't need no stinking data. What we say is data. The Fuhrer himself said, "What I say as the inspired Fuhrer is worth more than any quantity of Jewish science, which is all fraudulent and bullshit," said the Fuhrer. Now, I think we have something similar going on in LA County, which is, the powers that be are saying, we don't need your Jewish science. We have the word of the LA County Council.
Yeah, Gary, as Ben was saying that, I was started to think to myself about the Bible, and it's amazing how everybody on the left loves to mock the Bible as amazing stories that never could have happened. Yet on a daily basis, the religion of the left is constantly making up data, and they have no problem believing. So Gary Collins.
Well, the fact that they're blocking the investigation that would prove where the source was from, and we should be able to go after China for all the monetary losses. All the families should be able to get money for their death of their family members or whatever, because if they can prove, but they don't want to do any of that because they're in bed with China. The country that wants to take us over and kill all of us, basically, if they get the chance, they're in bed with them. I mean, they have made trillions of dollars off China. China has made trillions of dollars off us, the Americans, the working Americans. The fact that I can't go into a store and try and find a product made in the USA is like a needle in a haystack. Almost everything is made in China. That is lunacy to me.
Well, that may be lunacy or may not be lunacy, but I think what I think is clearly not lunacy is, if the government is going to tell us people, we're not machines, we're not monkeys, we're not dogs. They're going to tell us people to wear a mask over our face. They should have a pretty damn good reason for it. Now somebody's going to say something about the Delta variant. But is there evidence that the Delta variant is in fact affecting people in a lethal way? Is there evidence that a mask, they would keep it from
Literally
affecting
zero,
people in a
Ben.
lethal way?
I want to say
Where's the data?
I want to say close to zero, Ben,
Yeah.
because if I want to say it's close to zero, because if it was, we would have there would be a new death clock. It would be COVID death, and then next to it would be the Delta variant, and then the next month when the Qantas variant comes out, the new death toll will start on that, and so on and so on. But you don't need and somebody brought up a point I brought up in the last show, which was, yes, I do believe we are being beta tested. And what's very interesting is I had this conversation with a friend of mine who's a conservative, and he's a conservative in the closet. And I told him this, Ben, and I said, it's beta testing. And I said, we're coming up on an election, and he's like, I don't want to go down to that conspiratorial, And I was like, down what conspiracies haven't been proven, Ben, to be true in the last 5 years?
That's a very good question, because the whole case against Donald Trump was basically a fraudulent conspiracy. He was not a perfect human being, and he was kind of crude and bragging, to put it mildly. But in terms of colluding with China, doing anything illegal, that was all fraudulent. So these conspiracies, again, when we say there were conspiracies against the president, conspiracies against Mr. Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court justice, that was true. There were conspiracies against these people. And what's interesting? Nobody's been punished for these conspiracies. For the conspiracy, let's just say a clear-cut one against Mr. Kavanaugh. We conspiracy theorists on the right said there's a conspiracy against Kavanaugh. And turned out there was. These stories about him were completely made up. Why hasn't anyone been punished for them? Why hasn't anyone been prosecuted for malicious slander, a criminal libel? Why hasn't anyone been punished for that?
Ben, I love that I love your sincerity, but I also love at the same time you're asking a question that we all know the answer, because they're all together. It's like they're just one big circle jerk of people that have made the rules, that you ask for data, you ask for science. The only time, Gary, they don't give us data or science is like when it's needed.
Well,
We always,
there is no data or
yeah,
science on
there
this,
is no
so
data or
they couldn't
science.
do it if they wanted to. I mean,
Yeah.
as far as I know, there's no clear data or science that the first mask mandate worked very well. If
Okay.
there is such data, it's kind of surprised me that it hasn't been produced.
By the way, Ben is not saying anything negative about the vaccine. Ben has
No,
gotten the
no, not at all,
vaccine.
not at all. I
I've
got
gotten
the
the vaccine.
vaccine.
That's
I got it just as prescribed, exactly as prescribed, and I would do it again.
and
I heard a
that's not what
law
he's
and it made me
no.
very uncomfortable, but I would do it again.
What he
But
said.
I'm talking about the masks.
Plus, not only that, we haven't seen any data really on the vaccines either yet. I mean, we're way into this, and we have. I mean, I believe I want to say the CDC or Gary, one of these. I mean, the CDC
We
said
do
it.
have evidence that masks cause harm, especially to kids. It's a no-brainer. The human body is not meant to inhale its own carbon dioxide. Those are for
No,
plants to consume in order to produce
absolutely,
oxygen.
absolutely right.
Humans
Absolutely
are
right.
not designed that way. And the
I,
fact that
I would.
I can't wait. There's going to be people with brain damage. There's going to be kids with brain damage. There's going to be lung damage. And then they're going to go, oh, well, we didn't know. And
You know what I find so interesting. I'm not sure where you are since you're off the grid, but I know you're in the southwestern U.S. But we're all in the southwestern U.S. too. Is when I see people riding around in cars with the air conditioning on, the windows rolled up, wearing masks, and they're by themselves. I think to myself, what's going on here? What are they doing? What do they think they're protecting themselves from? They're the only people in the car. What are they doing?
I have a
And then
theory.
I see it every day.
They started off wearing the masks like that, when it first hit, and they continued to do it. Now they got brain damage. I think they're mentally incompetent now. They have no idea. They're done. They're cooked.
And I just went, Ben, obviously it's anecdotal data. I'm just going to give this. I want to say last week when I was going to Target, it was probably 50-50 or maybe 60-40 people not wearing masks to masks. The mask mandate starts tomorrow. I went to Target tonight, and I went to Target. I want to say about 10 in the morning, and I kid you not, 98% of the store was wearing masks.
Oh.
I went to Rite Aid, 98% of the store was wearing masks. And I know this is just anecdotal data, and I was like,
no, it's very good. It's very good. Very good.
Dipshits. I mean, like, what are you have just hook, line, and sinker fell for what are we not, Ben Stein, what are we not going to fall for? I mean, it's really amazing when you look back and you go back 6 years, Ben Stein, and we look at everything that they did to Trump, and obviously everybody, if you really thought about it, was like, this is absolutely insane. I mean, you guys are just have lost your damn freaking minds. And what will people on the left not fall for or fall into? Or I mean,
I don't think it's so much that, my dear friend Judah. I think it is that the astonishing power of government, and it's scary that government has so much power that even a whisper that's going to start 24 hours from now is enough to make people duck down and cover up their faces. People are really, really scared. Now, I keep saying, what are they going to do to me if I walk into my favorite grocery store, Pavilions, without wearing a mask? What are they going to do to me? They'll probably say, Ben Stein, we know you. We know you. We know you. You're always here buying salmon. We know you. You cannot have any salmon unless you put on a mask. Okay, I'll put on my mask because I want my salmon. But I would like to know, for most people who are not buying salmon, what's the punishment?
I want to say something. You Gary, the other night we were talking a lot, Ben, about just walking in naked into pavilions. But I want to say something about that.
Should we do the show naked tonight?
No.
Yeah, there was a lot of naked talk in that last show, I noticed.
But I want to say, you walking into pavilions without a mask and naked, you could simply say to them, my data suggests that this helps fight the COVID, that this helps COVID, flu, listeria, you have as much data and evidence, Ben, as they do about everything else. I mean, I was in Anawal Lumber. I'm not kidding. Back to somebody, Gary, wearing the plastic glove, the surgical gloves, and a mask.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm looking at this person going, "There's no data. It has never been proven that you could get it off metal or off objects." Remember
Well,
when the
think about
beginning, when
the-
everybody was like, "Wipe the gas tank."
not only that, but you, even if you're immunized, you have to wear a mask too. So that defeats the whole purpose
That's
of
really
first
good.
eyes.
That's a really good point. Yeah, yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no
so why did we have the shots if it didn't do anything?
That's exactly right. It's sort of like Ben, like saying, just go to Africa, get malaria. There's no, I mean, these people. I mean, obviously, it's all about control. It's all about
It
power.
is, but it's about the awesome power of government. It's about the awesome, scary power of government. My my very very interesting historical what should I say Moby Dick, with whom I follow through the history books, George Corley Wallace, started out as a terrible segregationist, just terrible. It is terrible to demean people on the basis of their race. That is just terrible. But later on in life, he said, "No, I've changed my mind about that. I was wrong about that, and I'm really sorry." But what we are fighting for is the freedom of the individual to not be bossed around by the government. That is still, it seems to me, a very legitimate goal for the Republican Party, to not be bossed around by the government. We do not like being pushed around, and we're seeing too much being pushed around. I would like to know, because I suspect both Judah and Gary have much better access to their phones and their internet than I do right now. I'd like to see how many other counties in America have followed suit, following LA County's suit.
None yet. None that I've read about yet.
None.
None.
So wait a minute. So
Yeah,
we in LA County are the only place
Yeah.
now with a mask mandate?
I
no,
mean,
just a
that's-
recall election. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
I'm convinced it's just beta testing until the recall election happens, and it's still September 14th,
And
September
think about it,
15th.
if you can stir it up enough and cause enough, people losing their minds. What they're trying, I think they're trying to institute mail-in balloting again. I think
Yes,
they're trying.
I've said that.
So
I've been
no one can get to the
somebody. They
poll.
think I'm nuts.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying,
I-
yeah, and they know that it will probably knock down people voting too, as well. And then they just stuck the ballots again, all mail in, non-traceable. Oh, we don't even know where this came from.
Gary, they
got
never.
8,000 from Guam.
Gary, nothing was stuffed. Okay, it
I
was
know.
all. It was too legit to quit. Okay, it was too legit. But on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to That Man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. I want to thank everybody that's been in the YouTube chat. I love your discussions. I want to tell everybody to please keep downloading these episodes. It means the world to us. Those 5-star reviews are great for both us and Gary and whoever. SimpleLifeNow.com. Find us now on Getter, the new social media app, and also benstein.substack.com for interesting news. And I know you guys didn't think we were going to talk about this, but I don't believe you could get banned for saying about what's going on in Arizona. It obviously had no effect on the election in Arizona. Trump obviously lost, but the 144,000 ballots, Ben, that they have zero proof, were never sent out. And
it's
in Maricopa,
something. I'm sorry, Gary. You go ahead, sir.
no, Ben,
I was just listening.
Arizona, take off your rainbow shoes. That's
Ben,
great.
and then, of
Let's.
course, this didn't have any influence on the, obviously not.
No, of course not. And why, with this incredible suspicion, did Fox News call Arizona so early? What's going on here? What happened there? What was that all about? And we keep proceeding as if we were a country that worshipped science. We don't worship science. We worship anything that the leading edge of the proletariat calls science, which is the agenda of the Democrat Party. That's what we call science, and it isn't science. It's just the propaganda, the agitprop of the Democrat Party. very far from being science.
But Gary, on the same toll, that's why I combined statistician and mathematician with mathematician, which that makes Ben. They don't just not follow science, they don't follow the math.
You know what?
Follow math.
Yeah, right. I always say, it's funny. I have a lot of people in my life who ask me about this or that, and I say, sir or madam, you can defeat my opinions easily. There are many people who are better arguers than I am, but you cannot defeat arithmetic, and you cannot defeat the science of statistics. And if I may say so, I was a pretty good science student of statistics, and the statistical analysis of the election concluded last year still points to some very questionable behavior, very questionable. Of course, it didn't really happen, and it all turned out to be fair and square. But I think a statistician would find that there's some reason to worry.
But Gary, this goes back to the point, where the hell are statisticians, mathematicians? I mean, we're living in a time, Gary, which, and Ben brought it up this month of July. But Gary, where the hell are these people doing these forensic audits with COVID, with all the crap that's going on? Where are they? I mean, I'm sure there are private companies. Like Gary served this great country for over 20 years. You had groups like Blackwater, right? You have other these like where's the statistical Blackwater group? I want a bunch of
wait a minute. My dear departed father, the greatest man I've ever known, was for many years a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, a conservative think tank, with very many brilliant mathematicians and statisticians attached to it. Very conservative. Why aren't they looking into it? Why aren't they doing some kind of study of it?
There is, Ben, is the great point, because they know, because many of them are still part of the grand old party. They're not part of the newer conservative movement, which is more closely akin to the Nixon conservative movement, or the closer to the Reagan conservative.
No, but the Nixon conservative movement really did believe in data and really did believe in science. And unlike the people who attacked Mr. Nixon and threw him out of office for nothing, for an imaginary.
But Ben, how many Republicans were supporting Nixon in the end?
That's exactly. Oh, I'm sorry. If that was your point, I missed
that's
that.
my point.
That's right. That's right. The Republican Party could have kept Nixon in office, but they were too damn chicken shit to do it.
So you asked the question. He asked the question, Gary. My point was, all these institutions, like the American Institute for this, or the Heritage Foundation,
they're great people.
Are all never Trumpers. So they have no vesting interest in doing any
but they have an interest now in making sure that we do not have a totalitarian dictatorship running America.
So many of these people, Gary, have lost all form of nobody's listening to nobody's reading really anymore the National Review, the Weekly. I don't even know if the Weekly Standard is still in business.
No, it is not.
But Gary, nobody is really gives a crap what Bill Kristol or George Will or any of these people have to say.
I don't think, with respect, I don't think that's the point. I've known Bill Kristol all his life since he was a junior high school boy, and I've always liked him. So I have no problem with Bill Kristol. I like him a lot, although I know he's not a Trump man. I have no problem with him at all.
Not just a Trump man, Ben. For years, these people, and this is why I separate you from them, wrote, and we're carrying the message of the conservative movement, and really instilling what we should do, how we should do it, from our foreign relations to in America. And once that a bunch of people in this country said, we're really not that into this anymore. They abandoned us. We didn't abandon them. They could have come along for the ride, Ben.
I agree. And I certainly agree about George Will, who, although he's always been a very, I know him very slightly, not well at all, just very, very slightly. He has always been very friendly and nice to me. And as I say, Bill Kristol is always extremely nice and friendly to me. Uh, they, it seems to me, have abandoned the Constitution. That's what I'm worried about. I'm not concerned that concerned about Mr. Trump. He's a rich man. He's got a beautiful house, many beautiful houses. He's got a beautiful wife. He's got beautiful children. He's all set. But what I'm concerned about is abandoning the Constitution. And that's what George Will did. Now, George Will, whom, as I say, I respect greatly, is a terribly intelligent man and usually a very well dressed man, but he is not standing up for the Constitution.
So then how do you, I know then you have to say Gary, in a sense, I respect him, but he's not following the Constitution. That those are two very
Those are big things. Those are huge things. Those are huge things.
But Gary, jump right in, please.
Oh, well, I don't think the Democrats have ever believed in the Constitution. I think they do not like it. They do not like individual freedom. It's
well, I
bizarre.
think they like the Constitution before the Civil War because the Constitution explicitly sanctioned slavery, so they like that Constitution. That Constitution fine, but once the Constitution,
like that.
Sure, the Constitution explicitly sanctioned slavery, and but once the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments have been passed, barring slavery and giving slaves, former slaves, all the rights of white people, they didn't like that.
Yeah, they didn't like that part.
They didn't like that anymore. Yeah, but by the way, that to me is one of the absolutely most amazing prestidigitation, meaning magicianship, tricks that's ever been done, which is the Democrats somehow convincing people that even though they fought to the last man at the Battle of Petersburg to keep slavery, somehow they're the best friends of the blacks. And that even though they fought to the last man to keep the filibuster, to keep from black people from getting anti-lynching laws, that they're somehow the best friends of black people. How did that happen? Where did that come from?
That's a great PR campaign of all time.
Yes,
I don't know.
Greatest, yes, it's amazing.
I mean, it's simply put, when you write history, when you're the companies that write the history textbooks, when you're the people that are writing, when leftists and liberals and college and all them are writing the textbooks, then you could write the most brilliant textbook, and it would be actual factual history, and it would never get into the classrooms because how dare you, Ben Stein? You gave us history, not revisionist history, not revisionist studies or social studies or all these different things. That's why, history is written by, to the victors goes with the spoils.
Well, and by the way, while we're on that, I don't think our wonderful little show, which is a small show to be sure, but there are those who love it, has really gotten into critical race theory anywhere near enough, not even close to enough. And here we have a whole country, large parts of which have children being brainwashed by this idea that the entire history of the United States has to do with the oppression of black people. Now, it is true that a lot of the history of the United States has to do with the oppression of black people. There's no doubt about that. Nobody ever studies what the lives of black people were like in Africa before they became slaves here. They were not playing polo. They were not playing golf at the country club. They had pretty miserable lives in Africa too. That's not an excuse for America. America's a lot better than that. But what critical race theory, the idea that all of American life, even since World War II, is based on the oppression of blacks, is just nonsense and pure subversion, probably printed in the USSR.
Right. I mean, Gary, you saw the story. I mean, what Ben's talking about with the UN, with the Biden administration allowing the UN to basically forensically study how racist of a society we are.
What? Wait a minute! I didn't see that.
Yes,
Judy, you're supposed to be in touch with me all the time.
I could have sworn I told you that story. Yes, the UN will be investigating how racist we are as a country, and the Biden administration is allowing that to happen. Tom Cotton's been very forceful and very, but Gary, you can't make this crap up.
A great PR campaign yet again. The black population in America is the most successful black population economically, educationally, even as of all the problems their demographic has today in the world,
By
in
far,
America.
by incomparably far.
Yeah,
And
it's amazing. And somehow we've got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people trying to crash through our borders because we're racist. I'm confused. I'm really confused. I'm not
no,
seeing a whole lot of them trying to race out of America and go live in Cuba. I'm a
or
little
live in
puzzled by
Africa.
all
I
of
mean, how many American blacks are stupid enough to think that they'd be happier if they're back in Africa? No, blacks aren't
none.
stupid. They know that America's the best place in the world, and they just want to have a good time here like everybody else. But somehow the Democrats make them think that they're being oppressed. They're not being oppressed. They were, without question, they were. No doubt about it, they were. But now it's a different world. Why not take pride and pleasure in what we have accomplished?
But I
Well,
love what Marco
here's the
Rubio
thing,
and
though.
Sorry.
I have to say this real
Okay,
quick.
go for it.
And this is something that's taught all the time, and we're hearing it every day, that America is historically and was built on racism. That's complete utter bullshit. America did participate in slavery. Our participation on the worldwide scale was very small compared to the rest of the world. And not only that, but blacks bought black Africans as well and enslaved them.
Oh,
There,
absolutely.
there are graves all over this country littered with Italians, Jews, Irish, Asian. Shut up. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Every ethnic group in this world at some point in history has been enslaved. Get over yourselves. You're no one special. I hate to break it to you. You know,
And let's, my God, how old are you, Gary?
51.
I love
Okay,
it.
so
Just so
you're
people, I just want
25 years younger than I am.
give me a second. I just want to
You're
tell people at home that are going to be listening to this podcast, if you watch this, if you get a chance, watch this too, because there's nothing like watching Ben get excited and getting closer to the computer screen. But go on, Ben. And I mean that in the best way possible.
I can remember when it was standard, even in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, even in Silver Spring, Maryland, which was a suburb where I grew up, to call black people by the most terrible names, and even for the teachers to call them by the most terrible names. I can remember very well a high school dance in my high school where a black boy, young man, showed up at the dance with a white girl, and the place went crazy. And they called the girl's parents, and her parents came and took her away and sent. She never appeared in school again. She was sent to a private girls' boarding school. I mean, that was America in my childhood. What a world we have been with. What progress we made. What incredible, unbelievable progress we made. But we're still talked about by the left as if we were the American Nazi Party. No,
Okay,
no, this
so
is a great, great country, and our progress in terms of fighting racism has been exemplary and second to none.
okay, so I brilliantly said by both of you, by the way. So my question is, and I want to ask you both because Marco Rubio suggested, and this is for people that haven't heard this story, but years ago, after Alec Baldwin threatened to leave the country, Ben saw him at a party and walked up to him and said, what are you still doing here? If you can't afford to move, the U-Haul's on me, or something to that. And Marco Rubio basically said the same thing to the BLM people that are supporting what's going on in Cuba. We'll switch, go to Cuba, please go to Cuba. We'll pay for it. We'll figure out a way for you to go. So good for Marco Rubio, a person I rarely agree with.
They've got
What?
millions. There's a bunch of multimillionaires in Black Lives Matter now.
You bet, you bet. That's one of the
people.
most successful ripoffs of all time.
So but now that in Scientology, and so now my question I wanted to
That's
ask
just
you
my
is,
opinion, by the way.
yes, of course, and I just wanted to ask you both because now that the UN is recognizing, I mean, BLM as, I don't know, I mean, sort of like I said the other day, like the Palestinians, are they going to have their own? And I'm dead serious. Do they want a state? Is statehood a BLM objective? Because if you're
Yeah,
right,
I think in a way it is, Jude. I'm sorry, Gary, I interrupted you. I beg your pardon. Please go on.
No, I'm just
What?
saying they already have their own state. It's called downtown Chicago. I
Well, they
mean,
already have District of Columbia.
No,
District of
but
Columbia, they
no,
got
but
other
I mean,
places.
guys, in all seriousness, you know, there was that great episode of Family Guy where Peter set up like Pretoria, his own sovereign little country. Is that where we're headed? That the BLM people that we're willing to give in to these demands, Ben? Because that's what terrorists do. They
Well,
give demands.
that's not where I'm headed, but I guess it must be where some people are headed. I have
I
a
didn't say
close
you.
family member who, although BLM is explicitly anti-Israel, explicitly pro-Hamas, explicitly, this woman had always been a big fan of Eretz Israel. As she's now supporting BLM, so anything can happen. Anything can happen, and scary.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Gary.
say annex them a couple thousand acres up by the Canadian border in the mountains and let them
No,
have it.
no, no. I like it there.
Yeah, just where no one's at. Ben, they won't last a winter.
There
so.
isn't anyone. There is no. There's now lots of people.
And by the way, when you say they, he's referring to all the supporters of BLM, which include a million white people. So we're not.
It
This
could
isn't.
be could
We're
be
talking about.
The problem isn't the black people. The black people are fine. The problem. I mean, they're exactly as same as the white people. The problem is people who seek to profit and make money off phony claims of racism. The problem is the shysters and the crooks.
Yep. Racism sells. Definitely does.
Sorry, Gary?
Racism sells. I mean, it's
absolutely very well put. Racism is the newest, hottest selling thing there is. If I could have a racist mobile car, I bet I could sell a lot of that car.
Yep.
That's quite funny, and true and sad. One more thing I wanted to bring up tonight, which is that I mean, it's just another one of those things that who cares, right? The federal prosecutors were delaying probing into Hunter Biden until after the election. And it's not a story, of course, who cares? It doesn't matter that this guy is an actual criminal. Why investigate him, Ben, until after the election? And the reason, and it's why this is such an important story is because had they actually done the investigation, media networks would have had to pick it up. And there are a lot of people in this country that aren't getting news. We like to think sometimes that people are all indoctrinated. People just aren't getting any news.
Yeah, I agree.
Ben.
They're not getting any news that is really news. What they're getting is the agitprop of the extreme left. And by the way, I have many friends who are leftists. Almost everyone I went to law school with is an extreme leftist. That's just standard of the graduates of Yale Law School. And they're wonderful people, and I love them a lot. But I'm talking about the ones who hate America. Those are not the ones who are my friends or my pals. And what the hell has gotten into their brains that they would say that? They would think that. I look at myself. Here I am. Look, you can see me right here. I'm on a screen. I'm an old Jew. When I was born, the Nazis were killing 10,000 Jews a day at Auschwitz. The Americans fought to liberate, not all, but a lot of the concentration camps. My father-in-law, Colonel Dale Denman Jr. of Prescott, Arkansas, fought hand to hand against the SS to liberate Gunskirchenlager, one of the most vicious, horrible death camps. He fought for his life to keep my fellow Jews alive. And we dare say that this is a racist country? What the hell is wrong with us?
You know, Gary, first of all, thank you. I always love when you talk about your father-in-law. But Gary, I really think mental illness. I can't think of Ben. We were talking about somebody else today on the phone. It doesn't matter who. Obviously, we won't ever bring up the name. But Gary, mental illness is we like to throw the term around, but I really believe it's permeated a lot of people in this country through lack of spirituality, lack of parental figures,
lack of God. When we threw God away, which we didn't have to do, nothing in the Constitution said we had to ban the Lord's Prayer. Nothing said that. There's nothing in the Constitution about that. We, at no point did we make a worse step towards losing America than when we threw God out of our daily lives.
I believe, Gary, that causes that can, oh, and I said lack of spirituality because I'm saying even a higher power, Gary, something that you are not, that you,
well,
you know.
And we've lost that everyone, you know, I'll use my Rush lyric. Everyone has to work hard to get to their heaven. And it's true. And we've lost that. And people no longer want to work hard to get to that afterlife, to, you know, to the divine, to understand that. Losing that's a huge ethical issue because now ethics are out the door. But I also look at health. We're the unhealthiest country in the world, pretty much. And when you cannot,
Really?
when you are poorly nutritioned, obese, you lack exercise, it's proven fact you lose cognitive function and you can lose it very drastically. You have an inability to comprehend and analyze information and make rational decisions. Unhealthy people tend to make irrational decisions. They have bad coping skills. That's part of it. But I think you combine everything in together and it's kind of the perfect storm, and why I believe that people just will not listen to facts is because they have the inability to analyze those facts. They can't comprehend facts. It's regurgitation, and that's part of the initiation process of socialism.
I think there's a lot to that, and I do observe that there is a correlation between how people's health goes and what kind of care they take of their health in a real way, not in a crank way, and their ability to function as analyzing rational people.
Well, Ben, he raised a great point because we will get into an episode where we really get into critical race theory, but I love the word critical because critical thinking doesn't exist anymore. Critical thinking, for the most part, is dead. And I love how, because if you could critically think, you would critically think that critical race theory is critically idiotic and absolutely asinine if you could critically think about CRT.
If I may say this to get to your keyword here, critical. One of my best friends in law school was an incredibly smart fellow named Duncan McLean Kennedy, who he started critical legal studies when he left Yale and became a professor of law at Harvard, or I guess an assistant professor, then an associate professor, then a professor. Very, very, very super smart guy. And he started critical legal studies, and his was not based on race. He just said the decisions of courts will be made in terms of benefiting whichever person in the lawsuit has the most money. And there was a lot to that, and there still is a lot to that. And he was a terribly, terribly smart guy. But this and is a terribly smart guy. But this is what we're seeing now is a distinction. He produced data. He produced data and case law that I think, at least to a very large extent, made his case. The people who have got critical race theory going don't have anything going on except a slogan. That's all they have is a slogan.
You know, somebody brought this up in chat, and it's really funny. When we were kids, I mean, Ben, I know, Gary, you got your aggression out at recess, right? You used to be able to play dodgeball and certain games that were extremely physical. And we used to play a game called Kill the Carrier. Simply, who was ever holding the football got tackled. And we did that for about 40 minutes. By the time we were done and we came back in, you were exhausted. You got your aggression out. A bunch of boys got their aggression out. And I think that they've taken so much of this stuff, Ben, Stein, and Gary, out of the schools. I don't even think dodgeball is probably allowed in half the schools in America anymore.
Yeah, but an awful lot of schools where razors and guns are allowed. I mean, the American schools. Well, I sure would not want my son, whom I love so, I love him like a child, would not want him to go to a public school. And with great respect, my granddaughter, who's the cutest, sweetest kid on the face of the earth, I would not want her to go to a public school. I would want her to go, much rather go to a private school, but it's not up to me. I'm not her father. But anyway,
On that
I'm
note, on that note, as we are running out of time, I just want to move a little, have a 1-minute fun discussion. Ben often sings this out, Gary. But what a lot of people don't know about Ben is Ben likes Dr. Dre too. So I'm surprised he's never taken us out with a Dre song. He's into some very eclectic type of music. Gary, you are a huge Rush fan. What would you
Yes.
be embarrassed if somebody heard you listening to?
God, that's a good one. Because I have a wide
I have
variety.
got like 100.
Yeah, I listen to classical music. I listen to, hey, I'll jam out some Kelly Clarkson every once in a while. Some, you know, Tracy Chapman. I mean,
What do you
I
mean?
like
Tracy Chapman was great. Ben and I, when we drove down to the desert, sing
Yeah.
Fast Car together.
Cyndi Lauper. I mean, come on. I like musician. I like great artists. That's what I like. I like talented artists. That's what I like.
Okay, but but what
Pat
about you?
Benatar. Maybe because
What
I'd be jamming out with some Pat Benatar, I guess, maybe.
see, there you are. So you're not just like a Rush prog rock guy. You have a few people will you're and so Ben, I ask you the same thing because you love musicals, you love show tunes, you love all different types of music, yet you always sing us out the songs. Yeah, I want to hear you rap a little.
I like such a wide variety of music. It's incredible. Unfortunately, the one kind I really don't like is the kind my son just absolutely loves, which is, I believe it's called North Korean rock or something like that. Or no, it's called techno rock.
Techno. It's called techno.
North Korean rock.
Okay,
I'm just
and
kidding. He's a very wonderful kid.
yeah, and but on that note, we all, I think we all diversify our music, and I think that's the problem with the left is they have no diversification in their lives. They have absolutely zero. And they have no diversity with their dating lives. They have no diversity with the entertainment they consume. Zero diversity in their willingness to open their minds and study, Ben. Exactly what they accuse us of. I want to thank everybody that's been listening and watching tonight. Remind everybody, Tuesday night, we'll be back. Also, please keep downloading the podcast wherever podcasts are available. Please follow Ben at spectator.org and follow us on Getter and all the other platforms that we're still on. And of course, Gary, tell people where they could find you and who's up on your next show.
TheSimpleLifeNow.com is the website. The podcast is The Simple Life with Gary Collins, and it's episode 100. And I talk about whatever happened to practice what you preach. That's the next episode.
That's actually a great title. Ben, take us out. Somebody wants you, Ben, take us out to something, whatever you want.
In Birmingham, they love the governor. Now, we all did what we could do. Now, Watergate does not bother me. Does your conscience bother you? Tell me true. Sweet home, Alabama, where the skies are so blue. Sweet home, Alabama, where the governor's true.
Have a great night, everybody. And yes, Gary is with us, to the people that just tuned in every Saturday night. So for Gary, he's always has an open seat at this amazing table. Have a great night, everybody. We will see you Tuesday night and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Be safe.
God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.